Thank you. Further debate? The member from Don Valley West.
Thank you, Speaker. This Conservative government talks frequently about how it's working for the people of Ontario, yet in the last 3 quarters, the Expenditure Monitor report from the FAO indicates that the government is underspending on the people of Ontario, on their health by $1.25 billion, on their education by $844 million, on children's and social services by $458 million, and on post-secondary education by $175 million. Speaker, the government is asking us to vote for its supply bill even after they have failed to spend what they said they would. And with a record-level contingency fund that they've made a cabinet secret, as I sit here today in opposition, it's hard to think about voting for any of the good things that may be in this act. The government is refusing to adequately fund critical services that the people of Ontario rely on by refusing to pay nurses and other healthcare workers what they are worth. And Speaker, refusing to spend to keep the people of Ontario healthy isn't financial prudence. In fact, it's the exact opposite. While the government talks of record investments, they also have record contingency funds. And we may also have record levels of taxpayer money being spent by this government to defend their losing battles around their unconstitutional laws in court. As the President of the Treasury Board accurately pointed out just this afternoon, every dollar they spend comes from the taxpayers of Ontario. But we don't know if this spending is at record levels because this government has not been transparent about how much taxpayer money they have been spending to fight in court. We do know that they budgeted $30 million to fight the federal government on their carbon tax, only for the Supreme Court to uphold the federal climate policy. They made private businesses put up their political notices, and the court found that unconstitutional. Now they refuse to disclose how much they're spending on 2 further appeals, hiding their ministry mandate letters and in the continued ill-conceived and damaging Bill 124. Fighting to hide their mandate letters has been going on since 2018, 5 years of wasting Ontarians' hard-earned tax dollars. I've spoken about Bill 124 many times and its damaging effects on our healthcare and education systems. But to add insult to injury, the government continues to waste taxpayer money they could be paying those healthcare workers to keep fighting what the courts have called unconstitutional, to keep fighting market-interfering, wage-capping legislation that's driven away healthcare workers, nurses, and other public sector workers. And while the government decides to limit healthcare workers and nurses' wages to a 1% increase and decides to spend taxpayer money to fight that illegal law in court, it speaks to the priorities of the government that they decide to create a record number of parliamentary assistants, effectively giving many of their MPPs a 14% raise. And let's talk about transit, Speaker. This government talks about getting it done. Well, the Eglinton LRT, which goes through my riding of Don Valley West and was started under the previous Liberal government, under this government is over budget by millions of dollars. The tab is still being run up, and the government will not tell the people of Ontario when it will be completed or how much their errors have cost. The previous Liberal government started to get the work done on the Hamilton LRT. This government spent money to cancel it, only to decide the previous Liberal government was on the right track and then decided to bring it back. Had they not cancelled the project, it would have been completed earlier and for less money. Similarly, the Liberal government started the work on GO expansion, which would include electrifying trains, making them more energy efficient and faster. Unfortunately, this government delayed that project when they came into power, and now they boast about bringing it back. And while building these transit projects is critically important, the government will not accomplish what they are intended to what these projects are intended to when the government does not spend the money needed to help cities operate their transit systems. And because the member for Mississauga Lakeshore raised it, let's talk a little more about Highway 413, the Conservative government's unnecessary project they claim will save commuters 30 minutes. But data from the Ministry of Transportation, their own ministry, as reported by the Toronto Star, refutes this and says that by using the existing 400, 401, and 407 highways, commuters could cross the GTA 16 minutes faster than they could using the proposed Highway 413 alone. Perhaps the government should tell the taxpayers of Ontario if it might be more prudent to buy back the 407 that a previous Conservative government sold off rather than to build a new highway that does what the 407 is supposed to do. We need a government that's willing to provide the services that people need, that's willing to invest in children's education and to build an economy that works for all. The government announces long-term investments while at the same time crippling our healthcare system in the here and now by not funding it. And this is hurting the people of Ontario and our economy. A recent article from CBC said 50,000 young people more are leaving Ontario because they see better opportunity elsewhere. Building new subdivisions in the Greenbelt is not going to address the housing crisis. Paving over agricultural land will not help food affordability. And underpaying our educators and healthcare workers until they quit is not going to give those same 50,000 young people the education system they need so their children can have a brighter future. Healthcare, education, transit, protecting the environment, and helping build up opportunity for a brighter future are indeed the business of government. Ontario needs a fiscally responsible government that is fully transparent about what it asks its ministries, that treats its healthcare workers with respect so they can do the work needed for the people of Ontario. A government that manages all parts of our economy, including implementing an affordable daycare system that works for families in Ontario. Ontario needs a government that is fully transparent about our finances instead of artificially inflating projected expenses by squirreling away billions in contingency funds. That is why, sadly, I will be voting against this supply measure. Thank you.